Okay, hope you're well. And now we want to start the third session. If you've got any problem, okay, let other students join the class. If you have got any problem or any question related to previous sessions, you can ask. Okay, who wants to talk about our previous session? I mean, the first session and the next session, and the second session. I mean, on first and second session, we talked about some issues of sociolinguistics and language and dialect. Who wants to talk about a summary of what we said in these two sessions as a review for other students? Miss Shima, Miss Sohat, or Mr. Ali. If you're ready to talk about a summary of what we talked last sessions, you can raise your hand and talk about these issues. No volunteer? Nobody want to talk about? Okay, Miss Shima. Let me enable your microphone. Okay, your microphone is active, Miss Shima. You can speak.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Miss Shima, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Miss Yuma, I can hear you. Sorry. My laptop was out of charge and I had to charge it.
Yes, that's okay. Yes, we talked about language and dialect.
Yes.
Difference between language and dialect. Variety is a term used for the replace both terms. Hudson says a set of linguistics items with similar distribution. Variety is some linguistics shared items which can uniquely be
Miss Yuma,
associated
would
with
you please
some
speak
social
louder?
items.
Miss Yuma, would you please speak louder?
Louder?
Your voice is too weak. I cannot hear you very well.
Okay. What about now?
It's better.
Yes. Yes, we talk about accent and dialect. Accent differences in pronunciation between one variety of language and another. Dialect, a variety of language used by group whose linguistic habit pattern both reflects and determined by shared regional, social, or cultural perspectives. All the difference between varieties of language those in pronunciation, word usage, syntax, and variation of the given community.
Okay.
We talked about kind of dialects,
Yes.
regional dialects, social dialects. Yes, it's possible in given community people speak more than one dialect. Yes,
Okay.
social dialect, we talked about factors such as occupation, place of residence, education, income, racial or ethnic origin, cultural background, caste, religious, related to the way people speak.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shima.
Yes.
Okay, others, if you remember what we talked last sessions, you can talk a summary of what we said if you're ready. Okay, Mr. Osam, you're not ready, or Ms. Rava, Ms. Sohat, Mr. Ali. If you're ready, we can talk about a summary of what we said on the first and second sessions. Ms. Shima talked a very good, present a very good summary of these two sessions. Okay, Mr. Osam, we hear you.
Okay, Doctor, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize the questions first of all because I don't know at the time. By the way, it is said on Monday. I don't know. I don't know why it's now.
Your class will be on Monday, just in Ramadan. Okay,
I don't
just in
know.
Ramadan.
I didn't recognize that. So I text my colleagues to send me a message to warning me that there is a session now. Anyway, just a summary of dialect and language. And beside that, I have the questions. I'm going to devote these questions later on whenever you are going to start a session. So here is a summary that English language, but it's so far that some other languages like in Dogri or in Halitan, in Gro. I don't know what they call them, Ukrainian, Latin, and others also beside Chinese. We would be too loath on the deny that some of these languages are languages by themselves. They are not dialects. That is not necessarily mean that all languages are equal. That the first is a linguistics judgment, and the second one is a social. Some people also are aware that the standard variety of any languages is actually only in a preferred dialect of that language. For example, you can say Persian. Persian, sorry, I mean Parisian French and Florentine, Italian and Zanzabir, I think, a variety of Swahili in Tanzania. It is a variety that has been chosen for the most reasons, perhaps because of political, social, religious, the economical reasons, and the combination of the reasons, and to serve that either these are models of norms for other dialects at all.
Yeah.
What I want to say here, there is a wide speech about the standardization of the languages.
Okay.
So in general, yeah, in general here, I want to summarize the idea here. A standard is not often called a dialect, but it is a realization or ideological dimensions and becomes a group of people. This process usually involves that the complete restriction or restricting of the historical facts.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you
Thanks a
very
lot.
much, Mr. Osam. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Doctor, I have a question in my mind.
Yeah.
Uh, regarding the dialect and the language.
Yes.
Yeah. Here, what about Arabic language? Arabic language, if it is a dialect, so it relates to which standardized language? And if it is a language, so what other dialects that are related to?
Okay. You know that Arabic that we talked about, and regional Arabic that reveal in different countries, in different Arabic countries. For example, we have Lebanese Arabic, we have Iraqi Arabic, we have I don't know, Greek,
Syrian, Lebanese,
the Arabic that
Syrian, Sudanese,
yes,
Jordanian.
Syrian and Sudanian Arabic. So we have the classic Arabic
No.
that is common to all these Arabic countries. But for example, Iraqi Arabic is a standard Arabic that is among Iraqi people. Okay, so it is a language. It is not a dialect. Okay, let me correct myself. Okay, it is a dialect among different regional dialects. One dialect among different regional dialects would be standardized as standard Iraqi Arabic, okay, and that is Baghdadi dialect. Am I right? It is Baghdadi dialect. It is the standard Arabic. It is the standard dialect that is among all Iraqi people. Okay, did you get your question?
Doctor, sorry, I have an objection here.
Okay.
Okay, if you said that Baghdadi is a dialect or it is a language that other dialects related to this standard language in Baghdad.
Okay.
But here you are talking about Arabic. You are not talking about dialects. So here, a dialect. It is
Okay,
not a
language
language
consists
here.
of different dialects, and all these dialects we call a language. Okay? And
Doctor, so what I mean here by
among
Arabic dialect,
all
I
these
mean,
dialects in a community, we understand. For example, in Iran, okay? In Iran, we have different dialects. Tehrani dialect, I don't know, Khorasani dialect, Isfahani dialect, Yazdi dialect. But among all of and all of these dialects are under the umbrella of Persian, okay, under the umbrella of one language.
I agree with
Did you
you.
get?
I agree with you with
Okay.
Persia, but I disagree with you in Baghdad. You know how? I will tell you just my opinion. I can say that. I can say that all Arabic languages now in Sudan, in Egypt, in Jordan, in Iraq, all of them they are under the umbrella of one language, which is Arabic. I cannot say here Baghdad, Basra, Umar, Nasriya, and other they are dialect for the standardized language in Baghdad. I cannot say that. So I can say that all Arabic languages in all countries, in Emirates, in Kuwait, in Egypt, in somewhere, so all of them, they are dialects under the umbrella of one language, which is Arabic. Here is the question. If we want to examine ourselves or to search where this Arabic language came from, I think, doctor, I'm not sure about this. It is Indo-European language. Arabic language is original is Indo-European language. What do you think?
Okay. If you are living in Iraq, and it is clear that it is natural that some of Persian words come to your language, but it is not natural that some of the Persian words come to, for example, it is not natural because of some borders. It is natural that some words and some, let's say, syntax, some morphology forms come to that language, that Arabic language. For example, in Egyptian language, you have many different words that come from France, okay, and that are and this language is full of and words you have.
Now English words, mostly of English
Yes.
and Turkish words.
Okay, English is something natural because English is a international language, and it is clear that it is natural that it influences our language. And also in Persian, we have different many words that come from French and also come from English. Yes, of course.
Right. Anyway, thanks a lot, doctor.
You're welcome, Mr. Osam. Okay, and Mr. Hart, you want to talk about the summary of two
Good
sessions.
afternoon. Good afternoon, doctor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hart.
We also mentioned that Bell has listed 7 criteria to differentiate kinds of language. The first criteria was the standardization that referred to the process by which a language has been codified
in some way. This process usually involves grammar, spelling books, and dictionaries, and also literature. And the second criteria was validity. Refers to the existence of a living community of a speaker.
Yes.
And also historicity refers to the fact that a particular group of people finds a sense of identity through using a particular language. It belongs to them.
Yeah.
Also, autonomy. That is, it is rely on the feeling of a language that must be felt by the speaker to be different from the other languages.
Yes, good. Thank you.
Also mixture refers to the feeling of speakers have about the purity of a variety of they speak.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the final one, de facto norms, refers to the feeling that many speakers have that there are both good speakers and poor speakers, and that the good speakers represent the...
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Miss Zahra. Good. And Miss Inas, you also want to talk about a summary of the session.
Good
Miss
evening,
Inas,
Doctor. How are you?
good evening.
Perhaps some of the difficulties we have, trying to define the term language arise from trying to subsum various different type of systems of communication under that on level. An alternative approaches might to be to acknowledge that three are different kind of language and attempted to discover how language can differ from one another, yet still be entities that must be of usual what to call language rather than dialects. It might be then be possible to define a dialect as some sub variety of one or more of these entities.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
And Miss Shiba, Miss Inas, would you please make your microphone off? Thank
Yes,
you.
Doctor. Just a minute.
Okay, Miss Shima, you want to add something? Miss Shima? Miss Shima, do you want to add something? You raise your hand. I cannot hear you, Miss
Can
Shima.
you hear me?
Yeah, it's clear. I can hear you.
What about now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
We have yes, we have facts about dialects. All language consists of dialects. A language
Yes,
is
I can hear you now.
yes. Have facts about language dialects. A group of dialects. To speak a language is to speak dialects of that language. Therefore, everyone speaks at least one dialect. Dialect differences are usually minor, and dialects of language are usually mutually intelligible. Dialects are geographically, socially, politically determined. Dialects variation is a matter of difference, not deficit. And
Mm-hmm.
non-standard dialects are self-contained systems with their regular phonological and syntax rules. Non-standard dialects of English are close relative to SE, sometimes reflecting older forms of SE. That I have about facts of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Shima. Good. Okay, now we will talk about regional dialects and social dialect in this session. Let me share the screen and then we continue. Okay, can you hear the page? Regional dialects. Okay, and regional dialects. We want to talk about a regional dialect as the easiest form of observing the variety in language. Because as you travel throughout a wide geographical area in which a language is spoken, and if that language has been spoken in that area for many hundreds of years, you're almost certain to notice differences in pronunciation, in the choice and form, um, in the words, and also in syntax. And also, there may even be very distinctive local coloring in that language, which you notice as you move from one location to another. Such distinctive varieties are called regional dialects of that language. So, if you notice the changes in words and also in phonology, in pronunciation, and also in syntax, in different regions of one country, you will see effects. Okay, you read that is sometimes used to use only if there is a strong tradition of writing in the local variety. And also we talked about the term patois. Old English and to a lesser extent Middle English had dialects in this sense because they have a strong tradition of writing. In the absence of such a tradition of writing, and I mean, if those languages, if any language didn't have or don't or doesn't have any tradition of writing, we use the term patois. So patois may be used to describe this kind of variety. However, many linguists writing in English tend to use dialect to describe both situations. So nowadays, we use the term dialect to show both varieties. I mean, both varieties where there is a strong tradition of writing and those varieties which didn't or which don't have any tradition of writing and rarely use patois as a scientific term. So, in this book, or let's say in other some linguists don't use the term patois and dialect in this sense that I said. And you may encounter only as a kind of anachronism, as in its use of Jamaicans, who often refer to the variety of English spoken on the island as a patois, because there is no tradition of writing in this spoken English spoken English. And the dialect patois distinction seems to make more sense in some situations, for example, in France, and rather than in others. In medieval France, a number of languages flourished and several were associated with a strong literary tradition. However, as the language of Paris asserted itself from the 14th century, and Parisian French spread throughout France, and even though that spread is still not yet complete, it drastically reduced the importance of local varieties. So at that sense, they call the local varieties without the tradition of writing, they call it patois, but they call Parisian France as the dialect, as a standard dialect or standard French. Miss Shima, you said patois usually is used to describe distinct languages that lack, Miss Shima, not lack the prestige of national language. Yes, and also it's called to the variety without the writing tradition, without the writing form. Okay, we continue with the differences between patois and dialect. There are some further interesting differences in the use of term dialect and patois, as Petit 1980 said. Patois is usually used to describe only rural forms of speech. We may talk about an urban dialect, but to talk about urban patois seems strange. Because of this, we said that dialect refers to a more patois society, and we may talk about a middle class dialect, but not about the middle class patois. And finally, a dialect usually has a wider geographical distribution than patois. Unobjectable, the same cannot be said for regional patois and village dialect. Okay? However, the writer, the author of this book, that is Ward indicated, many Jamaicans refer to popular spoken variety of Jamaican English as a patois rather than as a dialect. So again, the distinction is in no way an absolute one. So in Jamaica, you see that spoken English is more prestigious than Jamaican English, but Jamaican, but it's the form of writing. Okay, this use of the term dialect to differentiate regional varieties of specific languages is perhaps more readily applicable to contemporary conditions in Europe and some other developed countries than it have been in medieval or Renaissance Europe or today in certain other parts of the world where it was possible to travel long distances and by making only small changes in the speech from location to location continue to communicate with inhabitants. Okay, Mr. Waslami said, can you give an example about patois and dialect in Iran, for instance, to be clear? In Iran, okay, Tehrani dialect is a dialect, okay, Tehrani dialect, but Khorasani dialect or Yazdi dialect, we don't say Yazdi dialect. We said, we may say Yazdi don't have any written form of Yazdi dialect, especially those Yazdi dialects that reveal in villages. Okay, we talk about the villagers who speak, and their speech is a kind of patois. But those who live in cities, in towns, and their dialect is more prestigious than the dialect of villagers. So we said that. We named the term dialect, not patois. Okay, Miss Ina said the old societies may speak dialects fully different from the ones nowadays. Okay. It has been said that one big point, maybe those dialects that maybe those varieties that reveal in villages of some cities, for example, some cities of let's say Baghdad or Najaf, we call them patois. But the variety that reveal in cities like Baghdad, like Karbala, we call dialect. Mr. Jassim, you said regional dialect, a subgroup variety of a language associated with a particular geographical area is called regional dialect. Yes. And Ms. Zainab, you said in the United Kingdom, regional accents include the famous Cockney, considered to have emerged as a social dialect of working class Londoners, but also now and around London itself. Yes, that's right. Okay, in this situation, that you travel from one one region to another region, you have different dialects. You may use different, referred to as dialect continuum. What you have is a continuum of dialects or D. So in a region, you may speak a variety A, and also you may speak variety B, D, or C. Over large distances, the dialects at each end of the continuum may well be mutually unintelligible, and also some of the intermediate dialects may be unintelligible with one or both ends, or even with certain other intermediate ones. In such a distribution, which dialects can be classified together under one language, and how many such languages are there? As Wardov suggested, such questions are possibly a little easier to answer today in certain places than they once were. The hardening of political boundaries in the modern world as a result of the growth of states, particularly nation-states rather than multinational or multi-ethnic states, has led to the hardening of language boundaries. Okay, can you make an example of language boundaries in some parts of Iraq, or you may make an example of just one city in Iraq? Did you get the language boundary? If you want to speak, you can raise your hand. Okay, my question is that can you tell me some instances, some examples of dialect continuum in Iraq, or in some parts of Iraq, in some cities of Iraq? For example, dialect continuum in Najaf, or the city that you live. I make an example in Iran, and then you tell your examples. Okay, for example, in some provinces, we can see the dialect continuum in the border of two provinces. So as you can see, for example, one province speaks variety A, and the other province speaks the variety, for example, B. But between these two provinces, we have some villages that both speak dialect A and speak dialect B. So we said that this is this is a situation that we cannot say the dialect, one dialect is cut and the other dialect is not a situation of black and white. The situation is somehow like a gray, okay? It is not black and white, it is gray, because one dialect gradually changed to the other dialect. Okay, and now you set your examples. You said your example about dialect continuum in some provinces in Iraq. Can you bring some examples? Kurdish and Arabic languages, no difference, Kurdish and Arabic. Okay, these are the languages. We don't talk about two different languages, we talk about dialects of one language. For example, Kurdish, okay? We have different varieties of Kurdish in Iraq. Can you say some example of Kurdish if you are Kurdish, or some examples of Arabic in some parts of Iraq? Okay, if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. I can activate your microphone. Okay, in Basra we have different varieties. Okay, so Mr. Osam, you said in Basra we have different varieties, and you will see that one variety gradually changed to another variety. Dialect continuum. Yes, all them. Okay, not patois. Patois is let's say some linguists said that the less prestigious dialects. For example, in Basra, okay, the dialect that is spoken in Basra is dialect, but the variety that is spoken in villages of Basra we call patois. Did you get Mr. Osam? Ms. Soha, you said perceives distance indirectly, and there are unequal sharp border between dialect areas. Yes, exactly. Okay, we continue about the example that your book presents about the Dutch and German border. Look at this example. Although residents of territories on both sides of Dutch-German border within the West Germany continuum or the French-Italian border have many similarities in speech even today, they will almost certainly tell you that they speak dialects of Dutch or German in the one case, and French or Italian in another case. Various pressures, for example, political, social, cultural, and educational, serve to harden current state boundaries and to make the linguistic differences among the states more, not less, pronounced. Dialects continue, therefore, to disappear as national languages arise. So some national languages, when they arise in one community, some dialects continue to disappear. And this is not good. They are subject to two kinds of pressure. One from within to conform to a national standard, and one from without to become different from standards elsewhere. And you can see, unfortunately, that some village dialects or some villagers varieties gradually change to the dialects of the dialects that reveal in the city, in the large cities. Okay, Miss Shima, you said patois, I think, especially for the countries around Mediterranean, White Sea. Am I right? No, no, no. Not Miss Shima. Patois. Patois is something that is related to all societies. Generally, we call villagers' variety or less prestigious varieties as patois, and more prestigious varieties as dialects. Okay, when a language, did you get the difference between dialect and patois? If you have got any problem or if you didn't understand, you can ask. And also, did you get the dialect continuum? Did you get the dialect continuum? Any problem with it? Okay, we continue. When a language is recognized as being spoken in different varieties, the issue becomes one of deciding how many varieties and how to classify each variety. So here, dialect geography is a term used to describe attempts made to map the distribution of various linguistic features so as to show their geographical provinces. For example, in seeking to determine features of the dialects of English and to show their distributions, dialect geographers, those who work in dialect geography, try to find answers to questions such as the following. Is this an R pronouncing area of English? As in words like car and cart, do they pronounce re or they don't pronounce it? What past tense form of drink do speakers prefer? Drinked or drank? Because some dialects said drank as the past form of drink, and some dialects use drinked as the past form of drink. Another question, what names do people give to particular objects in the environment? For example, they say elevator or lift, petrol or gas, carousel or roundabout. So, according to these questions, sometimes maps are drawn to show actual boundaries around such features, boundaries called isoglass, so as to distinguish an area in which a certain feature is found from areas in which it is absent. For example, which areas pronounce petrol and which areas pronounce gas, and which areas pronounce both of them. Okay, this is what we say in dialect continuum. When several such isoglasses can coincide, the result is sometimes called a dialect boundary. So, the dialect boundary is not a solid line. It is a kind of continuum. Okay, it is not a solid line. It is a continuum. Then we may be tempted to say that speakers on one side of that boundary speak one dialect, and speakers on one and on the other side speak a different dialect. For example, in the province of Tehran, they speak Tehrani dialect, but in province of Qom, they speak Qomi dialect, and it is different from Tehrani dialect. They use different words the book presented. For example, in which areas they pronounce re, and in which area they don't pronounce re after vowels. Did you get these examples and these questions to use dialect geography and also draw dialect boundary? Yes? Okay, like Najaf. Mr. Ashal, can you elaborate what you said about Najaf? Mr. Ashal, you said about Najaf. Can you elaborate it? For example, what? Really, those who speak the old Najaf dialects are considered to be of Najaf origin, like some of the words. It's fragility, razane, Kevin. What's razane, Kevin? What is it? What's the meaning of razane? Am I do I pronounce right? Am I right? Okay, Miss Rasha. Miss Rasha, your microphone is active if you want to speak. Miss Rasha, raise your hand. You want to say something? Okay, Mr. Osam, you want to? You raise your hand. Your
No, Doctor, that was before, not now. My hands was before, not now.
okay.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know her name. I think she means there are some, some dialects, she's also using some words that they dates back to the history of Najaf. It means, in other words, that these words are originally. But I don't know what did she write in English. I'm sorry, I asked her to write them in Arabic. If she wrote in Arabic, we will understand. So I think she means originally Najaf, they have some words that dates back to the past time, still are nowadays are in use. This is what she means, I think.
Okay, but dialect geography or dialect centennium is related to what is revealed now, okay? Not what revealed before. For example, in some parts of Najaf, or in Najaf, let me say, let's say in Najaf, for example, you said Bob to Dar, to door, okay? But some varieties in different villages of Najaf said other words or said other items to that object. Line between to which in which parts they pronounce be. So they draw a boundary that, and this boundary is different from the political boundary or social boundary. It is different, okay? And we have different Kurdish, different cities that speak Lori or Baluch. This, yes, like Ahwaz that speak Arabic. Khuzestan, yes. Okay, some students want to speak. Let me.
Doctor, also Kuwait beside Basra.
Miss Zainab. Ah, yes, Mr. Osam, you said what?
Kuwait beside Basra
Mr.
and
Osam?
Fao beside Emirates. Also, they said, you know,
About, you said about dialect boundary? Maybe their dialects is the same.
Kuwait,
Uh-huh.
Basra, and there's a city near
I
Iraq
think
called Fao. Is it?
Faf.
They speak the similar dialect.
As in Iran, yes? For example, Fav maybe speak
Iran and
like
Fao.
Iranian.
Yeah, Fao, C-band, Iran, the same dialect. I don't.
Yes, this is because of the boundary.
You know, Basra and
The close
Kuwait.
boundaries. Basra and
Yeah,
Kuwait.
this is our talk
Thank you.
about boundary.
Yes.
Basra and Kuwait,
And
they share the
also
same dialect
in
also.
Balochistan.
To the same dialect. What about patios? I don't know what they call it, patios or no. So what about it?
Patois.
Yeah.
Okay, Patois. Okay, Mr. Osam, we call all of the dialects as a
Go.
dialect, as a term dialect.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
Patois and some linguists, let's say many linguists didn't use the term Patois. But this term, Ward pointed to this term to the specialist term to use for varieties. Did you get? But in this book, we call all of these varieties as dialects, whether they're spoken in cities or they're spoken in villages. We call all of them as dialects. Okay. And okay, Miss Zainab, you want to say something? You raise your hand.
Yes, Miss
Mr.
Bailey.
Osam, would you please make your microphone off? Okay, Miss Zainab, we can hear you.
So, Miss, in Iraq, we have actually three dialects. The first one is Baghdadi, and the second one is the Southern, and the third one is Moslawi dialect.
Okay, thank you. Miss Inas, you want to say something? You raise your hand. Yes, I can hear you.
Varieties are classified according to the people living in an area from another.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
And Miss Rasha, we can hear you. Miss Rasha?
Are you?
Yes,
I have to find.
we can hear you.
Can you hear?
Yes, yes.
And in Najaf, I speak about the dialect in Najaf and the old dialect in Najaf. Some families in Najaf keep and proud to some dialect in Najaf, like Razuna, Hishtiya, Darbuna, etc. This is dialect in
These
Najaf.
names are different dialects, yes?
Keep it, and it is proud of them. The ordinal.
Okay, got it. You name some dialects that reveal in Najaf.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we continue. Okay, can you see the picture? Maybe share it again. Can you see it now? Okay. No? Okay. We continue with the term dialect and its difference with the accent. The term dialect, particularly when it is used in reference to regional variation, should not be confused with the term accent. Okay? So here we want to talk about the difference between dialect and accent. Standard English, for example, is spoken in a variety of accents. We have with clear regional and social association. Their accent associated with North America, Singapore, India, Liverpool, and Boston, New York, and so on. So we said someone speak English as in the New York accent, or for example, he has New York accent, or he has Boston accent, or maybe we said that somebody has a North America accent, somebody has Singapore accent, somebody has Indian accent, or Indian English, she speak Indian English. So it means that they speak English with Indian accent. One English accent has achieved a certain eminence, the accent known as received pronunciation, or in short we call it RP. The accent of perhaps as few as 3% of those who live in England. The received pronunciation is a little bit old-fashioned snobbery because it means the accent allows one to be received into the better parts of society. This accent is of fairly recent origin, becoming established as prestigious only in the late 19th century and not even given its current label until the 1920s. In the United Kingdom, at least, it is usually associated with a higher social or educational background. With a BBC and profession, and is most commonly taught to students learning English as a foreign language. For many such students, it is the only accent they are prepared to learn, and a teacher who doesn't use it may have difficulty in finding a position as a teacher of English in certain non-English speaking countries in which a British accent is preferred over North American one. In fact, those who use this accent are often regarded as speaking unaccented English because they speak a Londoner's accent. So they call that they speak unaccented English because it lacks a regional association with English. For example, in Iran, those who speak Tehrani dialect, they say that they speak unaccented Persian. So other names for these accents, unaccented English, are the Queen's English or Oxford English or BBC English. So in this sense, American English is not the unaccented English or is not a pure English, okay, as they say. Okay, what? Miss Zainab, English Indian accent. Yes, Indian English accents. Yes, those who speak English with Indian accents. Miss Shima, you said variety of English used in print taught in school to non-native speakers. Yes, but at that time, in 1920s, those would be a good teacher who who know the unaccented English, or who speak the BBC English. BBC, it's Queen accent, right? Both of its formal accent. Yes, BBC English or Queen's English or Oxford English are the same. All of them are the same. These are the other names for unaccented English. And Ms. Rasha, you said more details of each regional. Yes. Miss Inas, American English accents. Yes, American English accent. At this term that we talked about the received pronunciation or about the unaccented English, those who live in Britain said that the English is unaccented, which is Queen's English or which is BBC English. So American English or Indian English or Indonesian English is not the unaccented English. It is said that those who cannot speak BBC accent cannot fit a job. Could not, Mr. Osam, could not, because it is related to 1920s, not now, okay, not now. Ms. Rasha, English language not standard British, American, others. Yes. Ms. Shimo, a small number of regional differences. What about RP and push name? Same or not? RP is standard English. Yes, Mr. Hart. RP is standard English. It's received pronunciation. The received pronunciation is the accent allows one to be received into the better parts of the society. So it is a standard. Mr. Ahmad, British English. Okay, Mr. Montazer, non-standard. Yes, Mr. Montazer and Miss Zoha, you said British is English. Yes, British is English. What do you mean by British? British is the nationality, okay? British is the nationality, English is the language. Americans, I have gotten RP under some changes. What do you mean, Mr. Osam? RP under some changes? I cannot get what you said. Mr. Rasha, some of the national standards are related either to American English, like, yes, of course, it's true. So, Miss Zoha, is it Britain? Okay, Britain is the name of country that includes England, and also North Scandinavia, North Scotland, and Wales. This we call British or Britain. But British people, British is the nationality and English is the language. So if we say British English, it means that the English that prevails in Britain. The English that Britain speak. England is one country in Britain, Miss Soha. England is just one country in Britain, in the Great Britain. Britain include Scotland and also Wales. And also, I think, Iceland. Okay, we continue. The development of Surrey English is one part of a general levelings of accents within the British Isles. The changes are well documented. For example, Fox and Dictionary, 1999, who reviews a variety of factors involved in the changes that are occurring in cities. One feature of Surrey English, the use of a glottal stop for t, is also not unique to that variety, but is spreading widely, for example, to Newcastle, Cardiff, and Glasgow. And the most generalized accent in North America is sometimes referred to as General Americans, or as Network English, the accent associated with announcers or the major television networks. Other languages often have no equivalent to RP. For example, German is spoken in a variety of accents, none of which is deemed inherently any better than any other. Okay, so RP is something that is just in America, in North America, and also in Britain, and not in German, for example. Uneducated regional varieties are preferred rather than some exclusive upper-class accent that has no clear relationship to personal achievement. And as a final observation, Bardov reiterates that it is impossible to speak English without an accent. So the term unaccented English is something related to popular people, is not a scientific name. Unaccented English, we don't, in linguistics and in sociolinguistics, we don't have the term unaccented English because it is impossible to speak English without an accent. There is no such thing as an unaccented English. RP is an accent, okay, a social one rather than a regional one, because it is the social forms that most people that who have the social situation use this dialect. However, we must note that there are different evaluations of the different accents, evaluations arising from social factors, not linguistic one. For example, Matsuda 1991 says, "It is really an issue of power. When parties are in a relationship of domination and subordination, we tend to say that the dominant is normal and the subordinate is different from normal." So all of this is political, not scientific. It is not scientific, and it is not based on sociolinguistics. And so it is with accents. People in power are perceived as speaking normal, unaccented English. Any speech that is different from that constructed norm is called an accent. In the page that follow, we will return constantly to linguistics issue having to do with power. Okay. It's enough for today. Can you hear me? Okay, it's enough for today. If you have got any problem, you can ask, and if no, we can end the session. Your next session will be also at this time, I mean 7. Okay? Because Ramadan would be about 10 days, I think. So your next session is will be at 7 p.m. Okay, thank you very much for your joining the class. We can end the class. Good evening, and thank you very much. Goodbye.